Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video on Marvel Contest of Champions, and it is new champion time! Wow, it sounds like I'm really full of beans. No, I am. I'm full of beans, a lot of baked beans, so expect a lot of farting throughout this video. That's a joke. In any case, let's get down to business. So yes, Cull Obsidian, or Black Dwarf, whatever you want to call him, is in my roster at the moment as part of the Content Contributor Program. And basically means that I'll get to have this champion to play about with for a little limited time only, and then it'll be removed from my account. Without giving too much away, initially, my thoughts are, first of all, design-wise, this champion actually looks really good. If you've seen Infinity Wars and as well seen Avengers Endgame, you'll know that the look of appearance of this as well as Ebony Maw is pretty darn good. Although I have seen a few people have a bit of gripes and concerns about the likeness of Ebony Maw, and it looks a little bit too alien-y and too weird. But the fact is, I think they both look spot on as character design, so props to Kabam on that. But without further ado, let's get into the review side of things. And to start off with, it's excellent that the champion is of XL size, because if people are looking for options for variant 2, then you have at it with this guy. But I am going to start this off with a little bit of a criticism. As I said in the last video where I did Ronan, the fact is, it would be nice to see the 5 stars, especially to get more of an idea of the hype. Kabam nowadays want to hype up things with featured Cavalier crystals, featured Grandmaster crystals, and those kind of things. So wouldn't it be more practical for us to be hyping up 5-star versions of these characters as opposed to the 4-star one? But regardless of that, the other criticism is shaped in form of the synergies. For example, it looks like on the face of things that they only benefit the champion Cull Obsidian, and the ones that interlink together with Corvus, Proxima, and even Ebony Maw don't seem to get any sort of improvements by the synergies, which either it's a case that singularly these champions on their own accord are strong as hell, and yeah, I guess that can be said for the likes of Corvus and as well the likes of Proxima. When I was doing the deep dive into the potential abilities and looking at the abilities themselves, I thought that this would be better for these champions. I was mistaken. Now, what of the signature ability? Well, if you're familiar with Corvus Glaive as well as Proxima Midnight, you'll know this whole thing about creating missions, and missions being positive towards things like persistent charges are going to mean positive things for this particular champion. So if you complete missions, it means you get more favors, and more favors means more buffs. The more time that you keep Cull Obsidian in the game and alive, going in from fight to fight, it is going to be incredibly positive for you, especially for the root buff duration and the root buff in general. And yes, the root buff is something that you want to have reactivated time after time, and you can only do that from an awakened version. So by dashing back and holding block for 1.2 seconds, once per fight, you'll go into getting the root buff. You want to see that minus 100% auto block ability accuracy, and also grants this attack in addition to burst of energy damage equal to 120% of damage dealt. Okay, I just want to take a little bit of a moment just to shout out this, because it is really darn important. This is an amazing counter for Mordo, for your Heimdall, for Iron Man Infinity War, for Medusa, for Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, the list goes on. Anything that's got auto block, this is an amazing counter, and it's going to mean that your fights are going to be a little bit more fun. Also, something to mention is I had failure on auto evade for some champions, and if you want to have and you want to find the first ever, yes, that's right, because technically we don't count the Drax thing because apparently that was an exploit. But the fact is, I think this is the first ever counter to Mordo. Yes, I countered Astral evade. I'm not saying I'm Mr. Barry big time because I'm the first to ever do it. I mean, in the case that this is good to see something that actually counters that kind of dynamic. And so far, I've been incredibly impressed with this champion, but let's continue on. Now, I just want to introduce you to a little element of something that I used. So having the synergy together with Heroes Never Learn, launching a special attack grants a fury buff for 4 seconds, increasing attack by 50%. The buff gains 150% duration while fighting hero champions. Great, by the way, obviously great if you're fighting hero champions. But as well, if you've had an expiry on your root, you do get yourself a fury buff granting 2944.65 attack for 5 seconds. The buff gains 0.5 seconds duration for each hit landed while root was active. Now, I couple with that, and then what I do is once the root buff expires, then it goes into a point of cooldown, and then what I'm doing is I'm smacking in an L2, because what you do is you go straight into the stun. So you've got those 2 furies on, and you're able to smack in a nice stun build up some damage. Maybe even in case you're like 2-point half and you're able to then smash in a further L1, it can be a really good way to kind of maximize some damage there. But also, if you want to increase the length of that time of that Fury, then you can put together a team with Nick Fury and also one of the Captain Marvels. Also as well, consider Cosmic, the kind of mini Cosmic Supremacy with Captain Beardo, so you can then extend that amount of Cosmic powers, because obviously he's a Cosmic, so therefore that Fury can increase. So Cap Marvel for the win in that particular synergy group. But there is a slight snag with the whole kind of, oh, you can evade Astral Evade, or you can punish Astral Evade now, is that you have to have 5 buffs. So that is good, and also there is the auto block stuff you can bypass, so again that is good, but you do have to get those 5 buffs prior. And that can work quite well, especially if you're considering that you're doing Alliance Wars and you're kind of building up to that point, but you will have to have 5 fights, or, you know, build up that quite quickly. And just to reiterate, persistent charges equal Thanos favors, so persistent charges equal buffs. Also, what of well-timed blocks and parrying those projectiles? Yeah, it was a thing. In practice it did work, but it also didn't work at the same time. I don't know really what I was expecting, whether or not to parry and put the enemy into the stun whilst going up against those projectiles. And yeah, kind of, but blocking specials seem to be more of a thing, especially going up against a champion like Winter Soldier, who obviously fires bullets, so therefore going into a parry whilst that was happening is indeed possible. But there's some times in the past where I've done that just standardly with the parry mastery, so the extent of how much that works, I think, is still something I've got to thoroughly test through to give you a real idea if that is indeed the case, that you can do things like stun and also really minimize that damage from projectile attacks. Now, what of the heavy attacks, I hear you ask? Well, they're not too bad, especially when I went up against an Iron Man Infinity War and hit in a heavy attack and I was like, do you know, this actually is quite effective. And I would have kind of then loved to have gone up against an Awakened version to just see about that auto block, but I already had that test against Mordo to give me that validation that it is indeed going to be amazing for the purpose of going against any auto block champion. Oh, the days of Iron Man Infinity War are numbered, people. But it doesn't just stop there to kind of reduce those champions that have huge amounts of armor, it's with the special attacks as well. And not to mention the fact, as we said, it's great to have the auto block working minimization through having 5 buffs on. So yeah, absolutely amazing so far with this champion, and the damage output isn't too bad, especially when you use different methods to exploit your Fury buffs, a good synergy in place, and maybe kind of working it out once you've got that root buff expiring to then hit in with an L2 or an L1, up to you how you play it. But also, if you're hitting in that L2, you're hitting into a stun. You've got the champion stunned, then you're just scaling your damage up as quickly as possible while the enemy is indeed stunned. But what happens when all those Thanos favor buffs are expiring or they've gone? Well, it's not all doom and gloom, because if you put in an L3, then you're able to get them back. Also, the fact is, if you've got a load of persistent charges on, I'm talking the full 10, then my god, you're going to be smashing in a lot of damage. That's 100% attack. Go for it. Like, literally, go for it. That is going to be some tasty damage if indeed you're patient enough to do those kind of things. You've gone for all the fights, you're at the end boss, you're utilizing the champion, you're smashing on through. My final thoughts on Cull Obsidian is that I was actually very impressed by this character. There's no great immunities, like, I guess a lot of us will kind of go like they hope for a poison immunity of some kind, or maybe something like new, like an unstoppable immunity. Either way, I just found this guy very impressive and very much easy to get on with. Similar to the principles of Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, they are on missions, and missions, if you choose to accept them, are going to be really good for you when you come to have buffs, as well as improve the character from fight in, fight out. There's also something about the character that has this kind of very much fun utility and at the same time great amount of damage. Liken it to something similar to like Hulk Ragnarok, or maybe like a Hulk, a champion that's able to put Furies in as well as good amounts of damage output. All in all, yeah, incredibly impressive. I think one of those things that does impress me is the auto evade / auto block utility. Going up against champions like this does make me gonna go a big thumbs up, especially against Modok and Mordo, as you've seen with the fights. So you can get an idea like how good these guys are, especially going up against some of those troubled champions of Alliance Wars like your Medusas, your Iron Man Infinity Wars, your Heimdalls, your Hulk Ragnaroks, Thor Ragnaroks even, get those two mixed up, that have this kind of auto block mechanic. It is going to be better to use this champion to go up against them. In any case guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider giving it a like, and also make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions based content on my channel. Make sure to drop into live streams most days from 1900 hours GMT, 1600 hours at the weekends. And yeah, if you enjoyed this champion, or if you've got any thoughts on this champion, put them in the comments section below. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.